Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel on what we're supposed to only be talking about Tottenham versus Chelsea, because it's a huge game. It's an absolutely ginormous game for us, especially with the form that we're in, and it could literally be a turning point in both ways. Arguably, Southampton was a negative turning point already, but if we don't beat Spurs, let alone we lose to Spurs, things are going to kick off, and it's not going to be fun. So we better go win the game, and if we do win the game, it could change everything. Well, maybe everything is a bit far, but it could change a lot. But as most people will have realized, will have heard about, it obviously came out last night, not long after we actually streamed. Graham Potter has received death threats. And not only has he received death threats, also his kids have received death threats. Now, I'm not 1,000,000% sure if that meant his kids specifically have received the death threats, or if Potter has received messages wishing death upon him and his kids. Not 1,000,000% sure. The reports weren't 1,000,000% clear on what exactly he said, because part of it was said in the written part of the press conference, so we don't have footage of it. But yeah, and what I also want to talk about is the fan reaction to it. The fact that some Chelsea fans sit down like, doesn't concern me what happens off the pitch, doesn't concern me whether the manager is receiving death threats, his kids are receiving death threats. I just concern myself with what happens on the pitch. Some people even saying, "Oh, that's just part of football. Just deal with it." Excuse me. What have we become? Like, what has the world become? Like, where have we gone? Like, I understand that much worse things happen on a daily basis where people don't just get death threats but actually die. But we're in a Western society where this is not normal, right? And sounds weird to say, but arguably the lack of empathy from so many people to this happening has arguably annoyed me more than it happening in and of itself. Because, as much as he has only told us about it now, it's not exactly a surprising thing. I mean, I've received death threats. You know what I mean? It's not the biggest problem in the world if it's one or two. But, if I can receive them, I was always very sure that someone like Graham Potter would, even if he doesn't have social media. But, people are going to find an email address. People are going to find it. His kids will have social media. If people want to, they will find it. And to me, it's been a bit of a joke. Like I say, the fact that it happened, the fact that how people reacted, and also how do I word this best? Like what followed up since then, like in terms of, he was giving interviews talking about this now, and you see people calling him a clown or a coward or just deflecting from the poor results for speaking out about this. Yet all society has done for the last, let's say, 5 years is you need to speak out about it. You need to, if you have mental health issues, speak to someone, speak out about it. You're not alone. But then when someone does it, we come at their throat and ridicule them. Are we serious? Are we serious? It's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. And this has nothing to do with him, with how the team has played and us criticizing that it's not good enough and that we need to improve and that he needs to do things better. Yes, you have. But you haven't received them in a sense where you could theoretically think they might actually be somewhat serious, have you? No, you haven't. But Graham Potter, those people didn't even know what you look like. I don't know what you look like.
Imagine, having somebody like your kids, right? And being afraid every day. You never know what random crazy motherfucker is going to come along and just do something stupid. People in America, they sit here at school. This kid's got to worry at school that they're going to go to school and then all of a sudden, like a mass shooting is going to happen. Imagine living in that fear. But you don't have to live in that fear because you're not a public person. He is. So there's no comparison unless you're a public figure to understand, like, oh, every day, just because I'm the manager of a football club, that my kids might take a risk because of it. You could never imagine that. And until you actually...
We don't even have kids. We don't even have kids. So for us, it's even... Like, I can just think of it as portrayed to, like, say, my little brother. And that's still not the same as your kids. Like, again, this doesn't change anything in terms of what that Potter needs to do better in terms of how we set up the team, how we play, how the results we get. Absolutely. But that's the point. It's separate. It's a completely separate thing. You can't say, oh, this comes with the job or, it's part of the game. No, it isn't. And it shouldn't be. And I'm a big fan that Chelsea have clearly reacted to it by, making sure that Potter speaks about it because, people say, oh, just speak about it. Don't speak about it. Focus on the pitch, this and that. I'm like, well, first of all, a manager has mandatory media duties. If they don't fulfill that, they will be fined by the Premier League or their club, whoever is the reason that they're not, whoever they're saying no to, basically, right? That's part number one. And number two, he's asked questions. Do you want Graham Potter to sit there and be asked a question? I was like, nope, not answering that. Because as we know from our fans over the last few weeks and months, when he says something, they twist it and make it sound bad. When he says nothing, they twist it and make it sound bad. And whatever he says, they just look to find the worst part of it or turn it into something bad. Again, people will probably come at me, what has Potter done for Laurenz to back him this much? This is nothing to do with Potter as the manager now. We're talking about Potter as a human being, and he's done absolutely not a single thing wrong as a human being to be suscepting himself to what's been happening. Like, think of the guy for a second. The guy was at Brighton, living his best life, living absolutely his best life, being praised by everyone as this great, wonderful manager that could go on to do great things. If we didn't get him, he might even be England manager right now. Let that go through your head for a second. He might be England manager right now. No, he came to Chelsea instead, and everything that's happened since then is abuse, death threats, insults, booing, criticism of his character, criticism of his personality, criticism of who he is as a man, questioning what he's done in the past, saying, he's not done anything just because he hasn't won anything. You know how difficult it is to, when you don't have like a playing career or like a relative in the game that helps you make it? Even Jose Mourinho's dad was in football, so that helped Jose get into football. You know how difficult it is? I know Potter obviously had a playing career, but not to an extent where it really helped him much. He started as a manager in the 9th tier of English football and then went to Sweden and got the very same team promoted from the 4th division to the highest division in Sweden and won the Swedish Cup. People say he's done nothing. Now, he might not have done enough for you to find it enough for a Chelsea manager. That's a completely different debate, though. But he's done more than most of us will do in our lives in terms of success. Like, let's not lie to ourselves here. This is literally a fact, you know? I don't want to sit there and just have a monologue. Let me bring you boys in. Charlie, what has been your reaction to, well, number one, the Potter came out and said this and that it's happening, but then in a wider picture, like, has the fan reaction surprised you as well, or was that just me or maybe not everyone has seen those kind of reactions where I'm like, what is happening? Why are we criticizing him talking about this? Like, literally, people have said, don't even make this public. Like, what?
But I'm not even surprised. Like, it just doesn't surprise me in terms of the way that certain people have reacted to it. I think it's pretty clear that from day one, people have been against Potter. Simple as that. And now everything he says, everything he does, every action he does, whatever he does, like the way he fucking walks or the whatever like suit or jacket he wears or whatever it is, just gets microanalyzed and picked apart. And people just attack his character and the person that he is all the time for no other reason other than the fact they didn't think he was good enough in the first place and shouldn't be here. That's cool. That's not a problem. If you don't think he's good enough and you don't think he should be here, that's fine. Leave it at that. All the extra shit. Why? You don't need it. Like, flip it around. Imagine if you were in a job, right, and you were struggling and your co-workers or other people that you worked with or people from like sister companies or from other companies you do business with, and they were all slagging you off and they were all saying you're shit and they were all this and they were all that. How would you like it? All the people that are doing this, if you did it to them, they'd be hating it. And one thing's for certain as well, when people call Potter cowards, these people that are hiding behind their keyboards, they're cowards. They wouldn't say shit to anyone's face whatsoever because they're pathetic individuals. And, you know, they seem like they've got some sort of like self-entitlement that because they're behind a keyboard, they can say whatever they want and it's absolutely fine. It's not at the end of the day. Like, if you like, I don't want to bring like the quote unquote big accounts argument into it, but like in terms of like, I'm not saying I see people saying that bigger accounts are responsible or have played some part in this. I don't necessarily. I'm not saying that individual accounts are responsible for it, but people need to understand that if you have a large following and a platform, then things that you say do get taken seriously by people, even if it's just your opinion. People take it as fact and as and as gospel and like that.
They
That's
base their opinion of your opinion. As
yeah,
well.
and you're when you're in a position, I don't want to say position of power as such, but when you're in a position of influence and things that you say that get seen by hundreds of thousands of people or millions of people or whatever, then that's going to have an effect on how certain people behave. Because if someone sees, oh, so and so said this, then oh, that must be the situation, and that means it's probably all right for me to do the same as well. And then how far do you kind of go with this? So everyone's got a response. Everyone with their platform's got a responsibility that, whilst you're not maybe not directly saying it or directly contributing to it, every toxic thing that you put out or everything that you put down that undermines someone is contributing to the situation and making people feel like that they can do this and get away with it. So
there's a reason why they're called influencers, and that's quite literally the reason, because your opinion influences other people.
Exactly.
That's the word that they're used. You're not like a big account. You're called an influencer once you get to a certain level, because your opinions matter. People's opinions matter, and they think. Actually, go ahead. I'll go on my rant later. But go ahead, Charlie.
No. And in terms of like, you know, in terms of it not being, in terms of, oh, should have been kept quiet, should have been this, should have been that. Like, people. Like, Potter can't do anything right in some people's eyes. It's like, one thing is like, oh, he doesn't talk enough, he doesn't say enough, oh, he's boring, he's this, he's that. And then he comes out and he says stuff. It's not like he's not come out off his own back and said this. I mean, he might have done for this particular instance, but like, you've got a certain amount of interview requests that you have to fulfill as a manager. You don't have to do them all. I wouldn't have thought, but you have to. You probably have. There's probably an obligation that you have to do a certain amount. And you have to speak to X publications, like on certain or whatever it is. And if you're asked about that, you're going to speak about it. So those people that say, "Oh, why is he speaking all the time? Just stop speaking and get on and think about what's going on the pitch." It's just such a weak and stupid argument, because what does that even mean? That he's speaking, which means then that he's not concentrating on what's happening on training. He's not preparing the team for the game. That's nonsense. Like, people think they actually know what's going on at the training ground and know what's going on with Potter and knows what he's like and spend time with him. You don't. So people just come to assumptions. People have made their own mind up already that they don't like him. They don't think he's good enough. And they'll just use every single thing that he does or says against him, or twist what he says into a way that makes him look bad to make themselves feel better, or to reinforce their narrative that they don't like him. And it's just pathetic. It really is. Like, you don't have to like someone. That's cool. But you don't have to abuse them about it and constantly go on about it 24/7 all day, every single day, which is what some people are doing. I just don't understand it. I really don't. And in terms of like death threats and stuff like that, that should just never be a thing. Like, it shouldn't even need a conversation about it, because it's just the wrong thing to do. You know, end of the day, this is football. I know we all love it and we love this team and we want Chelsea to do well and stuff, but when you sort of take a step back from it, it's just a fucking game of football. Like, yeah, he's not getting the best results right now and it's not good enough. And we all know that. We don't need to say it again. No one's accepting it. But this guy, afterwards, he goes home to a family, wife, maybe, kids, and he's a family man as well. And like, you have to, and he's going to be hurting when he goes home. You can't imagine that he's going to be a nice person to be around with what's going on right now. So it's not just him for the 90 minutes on the touchline and the press conferences. Like, he's got to take all this home with him as well. I don't think people understand how much pressure football managers are under, and particularly at Chelsea or at big football clubs. Like, it's not just you do your 90 minutes, you do your interviews and you fuck off home and everything's fine. All that shit comes home with you, and it affects your family life and things like that. And people don't want to hear it because it's true. That's ultimately the thing here, that people think this is all excuses. It maybe so, and maybe some of that is excuses, but it's also reality. And, you know, just get behind the guy. If you don't like him, it's fine. Like, you know, it doesn't matter, but just leave it at that. Like, if I didn't like someone, then I'd leave it at that. I wouldn't then make it my mission to go out of my way and like speak down on them every single day and unpick every single thing that they do. It's just not needed.
Because I think that's a good point that you're making there. Because, and I'll let Clutch speak in a second. Super Monty says here, there's nonsense. Don't condone the death threats. That's too far. But channels will still be able to critique because he has been.
Yeah, the critique is fine. That's fine.
And I don't understand why people can't separate the two. There's a big difference in saying Potter was awful today. Potter got this wrong. Potter got that wrong. Potter got this wrong. Potter got that wrong. There's a big difference to doing that and then twisting every word he says, saying, I don't like how he is. I don't like how he acts. I don't like how he speaks. Also, he's a pussy. Also, he doesn't have balls. Also, he doesn't have any mentality. Can we focus? Thank you. Also, he's just, not the worst ever. And, just we're not even necessarily talking about abuse in terms of name calling. Think about what critiquing is and what just you letting your emotions go is. And again, there's also a big difference in terms of what you do in an instant, in terms of during a game, immediately after a game, compared to what happens 2 days later. Like the thing that triggered me a few days ago was on Monday or Tuesday when Azpilicueta, of course, after being knocked out against Southampton, returned, back to Cobham, was released from hospital after being there, I think, overnight. And then I saw countless and countless and countless of people reply to that tweet by Chelsea of our captain, basically us being informed that our captain is well and good and coming back out of hospital. And the comments were purely Potter out. I'm like, that's fair enough if you think he should go. Okay, but who do you think it benefits if you reply with that to, like, our captain is well and good? Like, do you understand what you are as a supporter? Like, are you aware that you are kind of supposed to care about the club? People criticize Potter. Oh, he doesn't care. Now, he's spoken about this now in an interview, and he says, well, he doesn't understand how people have come to that conclusion type thing. But why reply to Aspie is well and healthy, Potter out? Sorry, what? Like, do you have nothing else in your life that you can worry about, care about, think about, than just Potter out, Potter out, Potter out? Like, does your brain, it's just mind-boggling to me. But, Clutch, sorry, I held you off long enough. What are your thoughts, man?
I think I'm going to start with people tend to overlook or diminish the value of empathy until they need it themselves. And I think empathy is a very strong word that people need to learn what the meaning of it is. Everybody goes through struggles. Everybody goes through problems. And I'm somebody who has been very open, especially on Twitter, about my mental health struggles, especially over the last 6 months. I mean, I do therapy now bi-weekly, and there's just things that, like, I can only imagine being in the public space. I mean, there's that South Park episode, right, where they talk about Britney Spears and they build her up just to bring her down. Like, people love the high and then to just bring people down. Mm-hmm. They love to do that. And I think our fans are so embarrassed, right, about our results on the pitch. It's more embarrassing that this is the front news of Mirror Sport. It says at the top, ugly stain on the beautiful game. This is what you're being known for right now. Not your club, but what you're doing off the pitch. It has nothing to do with it doing on the pitch either. You're threatening a man's kids. Like, how sad are most of you? Like, and I'm not saying this about the chat, because if you have ever, like, you just sit behind a keyboard, you talk about our assistant. Oh, like, this is what our assistant looks like. It's his appearance, bro. Like, half of you hide behind a player, Avi, anyway. You don't even show your face. I'm showing my face. Unless you want to show your face, shut the fuck up. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a game. Keep it on the field. Yes, Potter has not had the results that we want. Everybody agrees. No one's disagreeing with that. And you can criticize him, but there's ways to criticize him. It's not like, oh, well, I want you and your kids to die. What the fuck? Like, that's just shitty. Like, I don't understand. And the guy who said most, why don't you go to look at any Chelsea tweet and look at the replies? Tell me. Go ahead. I've been watching it for months now. I said it months ago. We do it with players, whether you call Mickey Mount, whether you call Romelu Lukaku Tims, which is, by the way, an offensive thing to call him, by the way. Just so
what have we had? Kai Havertz, or,
full of shit. I mean, we can go on. The nicknames that you have for players. It's not okay. It's never okay. Once it gets personal, that's a problem. Like, hey, you could say Kai Havertz isn't a good player. Whatever, that's your opinion. At the end of the day, an opinion is different from fact. And a lot of people misunderstand what an opinion is. Our stream, it's opinion. Most of it is opinion. We are talking opinion. If you agree with it, fair enough. If you have a healthy disagreement, fair enough. There's a lot of times I come on this panel and I'm like, okay, I don't agree with the panel with what they say, but I say my piece and I can understand what they say. I can have a healthy argument about it. But a lot of this is just, it's stupid. It's stupid that this is a conversation that needs to be had. And it's embarrassing that I am a fan of this club because this is what I get lumped into now. Over here in America, we know about this now. There's a lot of fans of soccer who watch this and are like, wow, this is what Chelsea fans are? Apparently, it's apparently what we are now. It's stupid. It's silly and it's stupid and it doesn't need to be here. This game is called the beautiful game for a reason. And we need to start acting like it. It's just sad what we do.
And this, when I see this comment here by Jonas, this is the next thing that pisses me off. I'm sorry, Jonas, and I'll say it straight up as it is. Death threats ain't cool, but the timing of revelation is intriguing. Looks like this man is looking for excuses. He's the only manager who has Chelsea in the media in a negative direction. The revelation is intriguing, is it? Did you not see the reaction by fans after our last game? The likelihood that these death threats have come after the Southampton game, when you see the reaction of the fan base as a whole, is very high. So he revealed it the next press conference. But this is again what our fan base is doing. This is why our fan base is toxic. You look at this, you're seeing our manager talking about being sent death threats, and your thought is, nah, poor guy, why are we being sent death threats? We need to stop being as toxic. Your thought is, he's just looking for an excuse. He's shit.
Why does it matter when he said it? What? So it's fine if he says it if we're winning, but if we're losing, you can't say it.
No, it ends here. Death threats are never okay. It doesn't matter when. It doesn't matter when. If he's saying it's happening, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you think, oh, well, this is just about feeling sorry for him. No, it's just not okay. You shouldn't do it. And I'm pretty sure the people that are doing are probably going to be found if he turns them in. You're lucky if you didn't. Like, if you are one of those people, I know in the UK, it's probably isn't it like the people last year or something like that kept getting arrested because of what they were saying because they found him? It doesn't happen in America, but I'm pretty sure it was
not much happens. Like they'll be able to find out who it is because they sent it from email, so they'll be able to trace IP and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm not the technical expert, but you should be able to find that. But yeah, look, those people get found out. They should.
He talks too much, bro. There's media obligations for football managers, man.
It's like
bullshit.
Yeah, but
you just think he talks too much because we don't win. Winning or not doesn't change media duties. Sky Sports don't give a flying shit about our results. If anything, they want more interviews because we lose. He talks too much. That's not even his decision. He's employed by the football club.
It's like, oh, he doesn't talk enough. Oh, he talks too much. Oh, he said this. He should have said that. Like, what do we want? Do we just want him to just not say anything? Like, it's so stupid.
Just to not, just too much pile on Jonas here because he might not mean it as it comes across in the chat, I suppose. But do I think that if our results were different, now would the death threats have happened if the results were different? No, but let's just assume they would. Would Chelsea have given him as many interviews to talk about this? Probably not. But because we also have to be aware that Chelsea is a business and Chelsea look at their business. Now, for us here, that doesn't change anything. For us, what matters is that the death threat shouldn't happen. But if we are being honest, Chelsea are certainly using it in a way of, they seeing how much is going against Potter and they're trying to turn it in a bit of a more positive direction, even if obviously you don't want to use something like this in such a way. So I understand where you're coming from in that sense, but to say that the timing is intriguing when the timing to me is at least very obvious, purely coming after we just lost at 1-0 to Southampton and everyone lost their shit. I think the timing is purely because of that rather than the result, because the death threats only happened because of the result. So it comes kind of hand in hand. But there's another thing I want to talk about before we move on from this topic, because another thing that has really annoyed me, because what I think potentially has come out during yesterday's stream was that Potter talked about how it has affected. Oh no, it wasn't yesterday. Well, it was during a press conference yesterday. How it has affected his family life, his mental health, and he didn't necessarily say he's now suffering from depression. He just said he's suffering for his mental health is somewhat suffering from it. And people have tried to turn this as okay. Now we have proof that Potter can't handle being a Chelsea manager. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you think Jose Mourinho, I'm not sure if you guys read the Athletic article, but in the Athletic article, they were talking about how Jose Mourinho was acting last time before we sacked him. when the results were really bad. Players and staff were avoiding Jose Mourinho at Cobham simply because they were terrified of what he's going to say to them. Do you think that's not his mental health suffering and the results affecting him? Now, I don't want to read too much into it, and maybe I shouldn't have tweeted it, but I made it part of a tweet that things at Chelsea even ruined Tuchel's marriage. Now, it's true. We don't know that for sure. But is it a weird coincidence that just as everything's piling up at Chelsea at work, how many people's marriages are ruined by things going wrong at work? Like, he wouldn't be the first guy. Look at Antonio Conte. The worst things got. Look at his press conference in the second half of his second season. Look at him. Is that not a man who's affected by what's happening? And then people try to tell me Potter is the first, like he can't handle it. Excuse me. Potter is handling it 1 trillion times better than all of these lot.
Mate, Conte
Sorry, left the club because of the fans. I know people say, oh, it was because of the transfer ban. Horse shit was it? Horse shit was it because of the transfer ban? Maurizio Sarri is the last guy that goes into football and thinks, I can only work if I sign players. He's literally the last manager that we've ever had that says, I need players to be successful. Literally the least of all of them. You know?
Yeah, but Conte's had on Conte quickly, he's had not like stick defending him anyway, but like he's had 3 of his close mates die this season. And people just expect you to be some sort of robot and just get on with it and be this kind of whatever in press conferences and stuff. Like, people don't understand that football managers are just normal human beings. They're just like us lot, but they just happen to be doing something that's in a very public space. They're no different to anyone else. They're just normal people. So like this idea that people think that because you're a football manager that you are some sort of robot and nothing affects you and that you shouldn't be affected by anything, it's just a complete misunderstanding of what reality is. Like everyone in the public eye has got feelings and whatnot and takes things home and holds on to things and things keep them up at night and all that sort of stuff. Like, this idea that because you're a football manager, it means that you shouldn't be affected by anything it's just I don't know where it's come from. I don't understand how people think in that way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Super Monty says here, sorry, missed Italy. Really? You think a 60-plus-year-old man can't handle being like, who's a multimillionaire who, whenever he's off for a day or two, can just fly back home to Italy, see his parents, see his family? Now, the Juve thing, sure. But do you really think that after having just won his first trophy, look at the video of him looking at the medal. If things were fine at Chelsea, do you really think it would have left? If you think that, you have just a very different opinion.
It probably didn't help that he dedicated his first medal to Napoli when he was at Chelsea. That probably wasn't the best thing to do.
No, absolutely. But let's not pretend that the booing and stuff didn't happen months before. And probably the booing is the reason why he dedicated it to Napoli fans instead of fucking Chelsea fans. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you think people are not going to react to things? And by the way, this is fair. You know, I
don't think it's
probably
fair.
Agree. You know, I'm not as inspired by this as I am with Jose.
But why should he inspire us to like the team that we support? Like, I think Francis's comment next, I think that's the one you need to highlight because that is exactly it.
Jonas,
that right there
isn't to inspire you with his speech. You should like,
as long as he inspires the players, that's his job. Like, you're not meant to inspire.
I mean, you could certainly argue he hasn't, so that's why I see.
But of course, end of the day, just be the. I don't care. Be the most boring guy that's ever existed. Just win matches for Chelsea, and people like you. Like things like football fans are it's a bit fickle, like shallow or whatever you want to refer to it. But like, if you start winning matches or if you win, like that's all that matters at the end of the day. So people got this idea that they want people to be like exactly something they think they should be, and they're not. Potter's not going to be like a Jose. He's not going to be like a Tuchel. He's not that guy. He's not that got sort of that outward character. He's more empathetic. He's more of a kind of hand round the shoulder guy. Gets angry when he needs to, but is not like openly expressive in the kind of the way that he feels. He's not kind of out there in terms of making. Oh, he makes a few jokes on that, but he's not kind of box office, as it were. That doesn't matter.
Well, here's my question.
But like, if it matters to some fans, that's okay. If you like him less because he's not like that, that's fine. Like, you're allowed to not like the man.
But then you don't have to say that he's so boring after every fucking thing that he says.
No, exactly. Like, you don't need to harp on about it. Okay, we know it now. You know,
I think the
by
problem.
The way, Mo, you're very welcome. I'm still crying tears, but you're very welcome, mate. And by the way, Aaron, I know I had it up on screen earlier, but appreciate you very much for the donation. Smash the like button, people, and Aaron will probably be on the player rating stream tomorrow. But yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything else that we need to discuss in terms of this one.
Chelsea 1905. We've yet to blame any of those accounts. But what you need to understand is they are still what you call influencers. They don't necessarily start the hate, no. But there is a level of responsibility that comes with the amount of followers they have. And it's not on them. It's on them to understand the level of influence they have. Everybody needs to understand that. That's the reason why, even though I don't have that many followers on Twitter, I try to keep it as positive as possible. I keep it to opinion. That's it. It's just opinion. And I don't think people understand that. It's not about that. It's not about individual accounts. Everything starts creating toxicity.
I think the collective of all big accounts, well, maybe there is exceptions, but what it feels like to me when I scroll Twitter, the collective of all big accounts harping negativity constantly certainly isn't helpful for the situation. And by that, I don't mean it causing death threats, but what it causes is a more toxic environment in the fan base, simply because no one wants to constantly be negative, but a lot of people have made it a bit of a routine, have made it a bit of a habit, to, especially after games, but also in the week. Check Twitter, scroll Twitter. Once you're in the scene, you're in the scene. You make it a habit. And then all you see is negativity. It's going to make you negative, even if you weren't before. And I've literally had an internal fight with my own brain for months trying not to be, because I make content. So I can't just, I could, I guess, but I don't want to just not be on Twitter, because in my opinion, it wouldn't be beneficial to me in that sense. But then if I choose to stay on Twitter, it's not an easy thing to just avoid. Do you know what I mean? And let me highlight another comment here, T-Spot. If you do not want to face health criticism, don't become a coach or a player in any sport. I agree. That's the problem is we're not talking about healthy criticism. I don't think Potter or anybody would have a problem with healthy criticism. Healthy criticism is fine. And by the way, healthy criticism is fine in any walk of life, not just sport, I guess you could say in any public domain, sure. But even still, in anything you do, healthy criticism is number one, necessary, and number two, part of life, no matter what you do, whether you work in a supermarket, whether you work in for an airline, no matter where you work, you're probably going to have healthy criticism. And unless you have a bad job, a bad boss at least, because no one's going to do everything right. So healthy criticism is going to be everywhere.
Can I respond to some things?
Go on.
So Chelsea, you said, how do they control? Okay, so I want you to go and look up the word influencer. What does the word influence mean? It means that your opinions are seen by people, and those people tend to take your opinions, especially if you're somebody and you're a higher account. Your opinions mean a lot. There's a lot of things that's why people are called influencers, because their opinions start to show and reflect on the people that follow them. A lot of people do not form opinions on their own. I don't form opinions on my own. A lot of people form them for some reason. Now, for the second one, T-Spot, when you talk about freedom of speech, right? Okay, correct. There's a freedom of speech. You can say whatever the hell you want. Fair enough. But there's not freedom of responsibility from what you...
Maybe, written into the Constitution in America. It's not written in every Constitution. I am still an advocate for freedom of speech, but I feel like Americans always think the rest of the world doesn't harp on about freedom of speech as much as you lot do.
The problem is we here think that freedom of speech comes with freedom without consequence. There are things that you say. If you go out there and you use slurs against people, there's going to be consequences for you. That's it. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. There are consequences for what you say. That's why if you go to a job and you start using slurs and they find out and they fire you, well, it's just freedom of speech. No, it's not. It's consequences, because you're making them look bad. There is a freedom of speech. You can say whatever the hell you want. Don't get it twisted. And you can protect that freedom. But you will face responsibility for what you say, because sometimes the things you say have effect on other people. That's what people tend to forget, is you say things, it could affect other people. Saying death threats, that affects people. This guy probably lives in fear now. I got to worry about my kids going to school. I got to worry about my kids leaving the house because some deranged Chelsea fan's going to come and murder them. Why?
It helps with living in England, not in, certain other countries, but, it's a tough one. I do quickly want to react to that before I get to the super chat, because that is a good point to steer the conversation into a different direction. But Isaac, and shout out to you, Isaac. He says, if toxicity in the fan base causes people to send death threats, they need to reevaluate, not the people who create the toxicity by critiquing the manager on a footballing level, which is totally fine. Now, number one, I want to say, yes, I agree with that in general. Absolutely. If the criticism would only ever remain on a footballing level, but that's the problem. It doesn't. That's the problem. And I'm not even saying that it comes from the big accounts. Absolutely not. But I didn't even start this conversation. But on a Twitter thing in general, regardless of small or big account, that's not even the relevant part here. What matters is that if people see other people doing something that they maybe are considering doing, they feel justified in being okay to do. And then more and more people start doing it. Again, I'm not talking about critiquing on a footballing level. That's, again, we can only reiterate, absolutely fine in every way. Like, I'm not sure if you guys have watched enough of these streams, but have you not seen me critique Potter, man, after games, man? Or on Twitter, mind you. It's just important that we are aware, and I'm not that big on Twitter. I've got nearly 10k followers, but I'm not that big on Twitter. But I'm still aware certain things I say will influence certain people, because Ben Stokes said here, he's not letting it, Pice, say it properly, please. If we say you shouldn't name call our players, you also shouldn't name call influencers in the Chelsea football Twitter scene, please. Shout out to Pice. He says he doesn't influence your opinions. Sure, but you're not everyone. Some people will be influenced by what Pice says, what Con says, what I say, what CFC Daily says, but I'm sure there's plenty of other big examples.
Anyone who has over probably 300 followers, you have a responsibility, because you still are seen by a lot of people. Like, you know what? I'm even going to say 100 followers. You still have a responsibility. That's 100 people. Toxicity is a virus. Once you start getting, say, out of the 100 people, 15 of those are like, okay, I'm going to follow that toxicity, right? That grows and multiplies. That's how it works. That's what toxicity is. It's a virus. And the longer that people stop treating it as like criticism and start treating it as like personal attacks, that's the problem. We treat it as a personal attack. Has Potter been good? No, he's been terrible. No accounts have crossed the line. Again, why don't you go look at some of the things people tweet?
I don't know. I don't know if anyone has crossed the line. I personally
Nobody's crossed the line. But there's
that Eunice had a poor take on like saying, because you're paid 12 million a season, it means that the pressure there should be no pressure because of the money you're being paid. It's just a nonsense argument.
Yeah, I mean, I find I'm very uncomfortable with just name calling people when they're not there to defend themselves. So that's why I don't want to go on about, this account, that account. It's not the point. Point is, don't send death threats to Graham Potter.
That point shouldn't even need to be made.
Much more important. I'm more going from what I think is right. People do what they want to do. But from my perspective, I want people to live their best life, right? In every sense of that term. So by that, I don't want people to be negative. I don't want people to be sad. I don't want people to be depressed, even if that's a strong word. Why? So I try to, when I can, sometimes I can't, everyone's human. We can't always be positive. But when I can, I try not to all week long between games harp on about negative things, because that in the end creates toxicity. And it's not by individuals doing that. It's only when it becomes more and more people. And that's why it's been a slow process that has happened at Chelsea really in the last year. And obviously started, under Lampard and Sarri, that was constantly going on there. But it's been becoming more and more and more toxic since the whole takeover, not even takeover, since the sanctions happened, because that's when people started flying at each other. And it just got worse and worse and worse from then on. And that's all I'm trying to say. Let's try to create a less toxic environment, because at the end of the day, if we are Chelsea fans, and those of us that are proper Chelsea fans, we want the team to succeed, no? And I think we can all be aware, we can all understand that creating a toxic environment isn't gonna make anyone play better, do better, perform better. And we're talking from the management staff to the coaching staff to the players to probably even the flipping physios. Do you know what I mean? If we create a more positive environment, they're more likely, excuse me, bloody hell, they're more likely to perform to their best ability. And at the end of the day, don't we as fans want them to perform to their best ability? Because I do. And that's why I don't understand why we need to make everything so negative. Now, I do, to some extent, understand, and there's certainly been times when I've been very much so against the manager. But what I find it strange when that kind of extreme opinion against the manager comes so early. Because I'm like, surely any manager needs to have a certain amount of time before it becomes, untenable. And that's why, for me, I kind of got to that point on Saturday when that first half, after that first half, because that was just awful in every sense of the word. So I was like, now I maybe don't believe in it anymore. But I found it weird how people said Potter is awful from day dot, or if not from day dot, from week 3. And I just always found it really just odd. I just find it odd. Just let's, rather than trying to create even more negativity, but trying to play the blame game of who's at fault for what, that's not the point. That's not the target. Let's just try to just create a more positive environment. I know in theory, if all the fans, built a collective and said, we want Potter out, maybe that would actually change and, have an impact. Sure. But as an individual, we don't have the power to decide who is or who isn't the manager, right? It's going to be down to Bowley and Iqbali and these lot anyways. So we can't control that. So rather than making your own life and other people's life miserable by constantly harping on about how shit he is and how he needs to get gone, surely just try to hope for the best. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is a football club where you can't control it. None of us are training. None of us control training. None of us can control what happens on the pitch. We just have to hope that it gets better. I don't understand why it almost seems like people have a fetish for everything being bad. It's just, to me, it's strange. But, I mean, unless Charlie, Clutch, do either of you want to add something to that before we move on?
No, I don't think so, mate.
Good. Let me start it off, changing the topic, with this wonderful super chat by no one, because I found it great. Potter doesn't need to talk great, be fiery or passionate. He just has to win. What you guys think he needs to change to start winning? What a great transition, I should really transfer you that super chat money back, quite frankly, because you gave him our own transition. Appreciate it, mate. But boys, what do we think we do need to change to start winning? Now, number one, I think the first thing we all need to stop doing,
put the ball in a fucking goal.
As much rotation as we did last week, Start with that one, I would say. Go on.
Ball in the net. That's all that's missing. Like, defensively we're good. Like, we're good defensively. There's no denying it. I think we've got the joint second best defense in the league with Arsenal behind Newcastle. Like, we're good defensively. We can't do anything at the top end of the pitch. Right, midfield's a little bit questionable as well, but like, the reason we are where we're at is not because we're letting loads of goals in. It's just because we can't fucking score any goals. So, like, when I say, like, we're not far away, people are like, yeah, but we're losing all the time. We are losing all the time. But what's mad is we're not actually that far away from being a decent team, because we've got the foundations there in the defence. We're starting to create a lot more opportunities than we have done in recent times. And just think about how many games we would have won. I know it's all lives and buts, but you think about the games that we could have won over the last 4 or 5 games if we had people that could put the ball in the net, or if those people that are supposed to put the ball in the net actually did do that. Like, the picture's totally different. We're talking about fine margins here. We're not talking about us turning up and getting hammered every game, getting played off the park, not creating any opportunities. That's totally different. And like, we're not far away. And yes, 2 wins in 14 in the league, 2 wins in 15 all competitions is unacceptable. But we're not far away from winning these matches. And that's kind of my point, is that whilst the results are terrible, like, it's not as bad as people make it out to be in terms of how the team's performing. Yes, the first half against this game against Southampton was terrible, but he still had opportunities to score in that game where anyone competent in front of goal would have put the ball in the net. So what I'm saying is that the results aren't good enough, but we're not a million miles away. We're in all these games that we're drawing or losing. We're well in these games, or we've created enough opportunities to win them. We're just not doing it. And I don't really know how you change that, because Potter can't get on the pitch and put the ball in the net. It could be a confidence thing. When your confidence is low, you're more likely to snatch at things, etc. But I don't know. Like, we're not that far. I don't think we're that far away in terms of this clicking. It's just obviously it hasn't happened yet.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because on the one hand, I kind of want to agree with that. On the other hand, I'm like, okay, so a month ago, we blamed all the lack of creative players. I guess we added some to it, so maybe we were right to blame them. And now that we're creating a bit more, but we're not scoring, and we're now blaming the finishers. But I would still say, yes, we are creating chances, but we're still not creating a lot of chances.
No, but we're creating enough to score at least 1 or 2 goals.
Absolutely.
And that's more than enough to win games, because we're only letting in really 1 goal a game.
Absolutely. But it comes on the back of a period where we didn't create nothing for months. So I think part of what we need to also understand a little bit is, like, the more you create and the more consistently you create a good amount of chances in a game for your attackers, the more likely they will be to score. You know, when you haven't created much for 3 months and whoever plays up front or in the attacking areas had to go off 1 chance a game, and knowing as that ball comes flying into him, if I don't score this, we're probably not going to win because we're probably not going to create another proper chance. That added pressure makes a huge difference. But therefore, creating 4 or 5 chances and knowing we're going to have 4 or 5 chances on a regular basis, that will automatically improve finishing.
Yeah.
But that's why it's a process of, okay, first, we solidified the defense a little bit, especially with Badiashile coming in. With the second least amount of goals conceded in the whole league. I still don't understand how that's possible, but somehow we do. Then we start, okay, we can't create to save our lives. Now, recently, we created a little bit more. Good. And then you need another little bit of time to get to a point of where you start scoring them. Because I completely agree with Charlie, but what I don't think we should be doing is now, okay, 2 months ago, we were saying, oh, all the creative stuff is shit. And then the defense is down to individuals. Everything is always down to individuals when we do things good, but when we do things bad, it's all Potter's fault. Weird, that one, isn't it? But yeah, so we weren't creating anything. Now we started creating a little bit more, partly because we added new players, partly because players are all of a sudden doing things a little bit better. Best example being Hakim Ziyech. Before the World Cup, everyone was like, get rid, we hate him, he's shit. After World Cup, first 2 games he played, best player.
We should still get rid, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, okay. Different discussion. But in terms of attacking player that did the most useful things, it was Hakim Ziyech. The best sign. Look at Marcus Rashford. For a year, he was absolute dog shit. How many United fans, I'm not sure if people follow United fans, but how many United fans, if you went on Twitter, would you have seen that wanted to get rid of Marcus Rashford? And now...
They called him Trashford. I want you to remember
that. And now he's breaking records that only people like Ronaldo and Wayne Rooney have had before. Like, it's all about confidence. Just because a player isn't doing something right now doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad player. Now, there comes a point when someone is not doing something for too long. Sure. Then you're like, well, at some point, you like have to lose a little bit of hope. That's a different scenario, though. But when, things... And that's why I find it so difficult in terms of going back to the original question, what do we need to do to start winning? It's such a difficult... because it's so difficult to say, we need to just take our chances. But
that is it.
On the one hand, it's true, though. Yeah, but I still don't think we should just jump on the neck of everyone that doesn't take the chance. Because, okay, finally, for the first time in God knows how long, we're creating a few. Now, for the first time, we can actually genuinely blame those guys rather than before when, they were barely seeing any of the ball and they were like, oh, he's shit. Sorry, I lost my train of thought now. Charlie, did you want to finish on that before?
I was just going to say that, I know XG is like this thing, and it's not really Like, you know, people like to use it in a positive way if it suits them, and if it doesn't, then whatever. But like, you only have to look at Chelsea's XG over the last few games. It's high. Like, we're creating chances, we're creating good goal scoring opportunities, but we're not converting them. And now, if we could convert our chances, the outlook on Graham Potter is totally different. I know this is all ifs and buts, and it doesn't really matter because we haven't done it, and this is the situation that we're in. But I mean, what more can you do? Whatever manager you are on the sidelines, if you've got players on the pitch that are constantly letting you down in the final third, what can you do? Like, I know XG doesn't give you points in the chat. I know that, but like, it's a barometer of the fact that we're actually creating more chances than we have done in a long time. If the XG was low, then people would be like, "Oh, we're so shit. Potter's teams don't create anything." When it's high, oh, it doesn't give you the points. Like what way do you want it? Like, I don't know if Matt's watched any games. Like, what do you mean we don't create any chances? Like, we do. Have you not watched?
Beat Dortmund by how many goals?
Have you not watched the last few games? Like, we've created chances. If you choose to think that those aren't chances, that's fine. That's on you. But like, we have created. You speak to any Chelsea fans. We have created chances in the last few games, and the stats back that up. Now, if you don't like to use stats, or you don't agree with stats, then whatever. But the fact of the matter is that the stats and the data back us up that we have created chances to win in the last few games, which, whilst we haven't won, and that's not good enough, goes to show that we are sort of moving in the right direction in terms of all that's really missing. Of course, we can play a lot better for sure, but all that's missing is that clinical stuff at the top end of the pitch. Like, the defense is good. Midfield, of course, can improve, but now with Enzo in there, it's serviceable at best. And the top end of the pitch, we've got a better quality of player than we have done. And eventually, when people get their act together at the top end of the pitch, then we should start winning a lot more matches. And I do think that's kind of what it's down to. But when confidence is low and all that, and there's negativity coming from the stands, that all transmits onto the players. And then the confidence is low at the best of times. To make it even lower, no wonder people aren't scoring or taking their chances.
No, exactly. I mean, I think Ejnako makes a reasonable point. The XG is much better than it was a few weeks ago. It's still not like to a point like a Man City or an Arsenal.
No, of course, we haven't got those players.
Like, it's 3-4 games where it's improved, absolutely. But now, obviously, the whole important thing is that we need to actually build on that and start being capable of doing that regularly. Like, this is the best example. This is an example of things going your way. Obviously, I mean, Courtois messed up as well, but Alisson tried to clear the ball. Real Madrid scored from it. The third goal was a header with some of the worst defending. Like, no one defends like that against us. You know, I mean, to be fair, no one plays a free kick like that for us either, I will say. But that fourth goal, complete deflection. Fifth goal, because Real Madrid were 4-2 up and Liverpool were going for a gung-ho. Because we only ever score one goal. Well, we can't score easy goals like that, can we? And this is the next thing. How do you know that? How do you know?
Mate, this one fucks me off the most.
That Potter does not command respect from the players.
People act like they're in the dressing room and they know what's going on. That is a completely baseless allegation on absolutely fuck all. Like, people, like, you can have that opinion, but what are you basing that opinion of? What? Because I don't listen to him on the touchline. What are you there? Are you in? Like, it's nonsense.
Because he doesn't come out after games and target players like a certain other manager did, you know?
Yeah,
that's literally what it comes down to. Is he doesn't name people. By the way, for people in the chat, Tuchel lost his job the second he said we have the same players. He was done. He was never going to make it here after that. Just so you realize that.
No, he was done after that for sure. But like, you know, what are people basing this on? What, because we're losing matches, so that means therefore they're not listening. What, so under any manager that we lose matches under, oh, they're not listening to any of them, are they? Like, it's just a nonsense argument, in my opinion.
When does our manager ever pull the seam aside during the game? When does that happen anywhere unless there's a stoppage?
I mean, I agree with you, Clutch. When does that happen other than when there is stoppage? But I do think that Potter needs to do that type of thing a little more during a game when there is stoppages, because it happens. Like, look when Aston was down for like half an hour. You know, instead of watching letting the entire team watch their teammate be unconscious and treated. Not good for their psychology to watch that happen anyway. People had a go at Mudryk and Joao Felix for passing the ball back and forth. No, they were the only ones doing the smart thing because they still had a job to do on the pitch. There was still game time to go. So what you should be doing is watch what's happening to your poor teammate. Make sure the paramedics do their job. They handle that, you handle yourself. That's when Potter should have gone to the team and tried to do something for the rest of the game.
But you can guarantee, right?
This is where we talk about football criticism. But what it's silly is say it doesn't command respect from the players, which you just don't know.
But if Jott's mad, right? If we win tomorrow, right? People will then say, "Oh, it was only Tottenham, and we always beat Tottenham," to discredit him even more.
Players. Thiago Silva played well, Enzo played well.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I mean. Like, so it's almost like he's an impossible situation because we win tomorrow. Oh, it's only Tottenham. Oh, it was the players that got him out. It was nothing to do with him. Like where do we go with this?
Yeah.
And my point proven in the chat just there. Yeah, this is my point. Like, well, what do you want us to do? We always beat Spurs. All right. Well, okay, we generally do, but. Well, so there's no praise or anything then because we always beat that team. Like I don't understand it.
Yeah, I like how he said being nice gets you nowhere. Well, being mean like Jose, what has that done? Where's he at now?
Yeah, and
he's
also
a top manager at Roma, by the way.
Alex Ferguson wouldn't be as successful now
because
the whole famous hairdryer.
Mate, he was close to being sacked as well. By the way, Fergie. Like, he was a couple games away. And also, Matt saying that I don't go to games is also utter nonsense. I've been to probably more games than you have this season, home and away. So to say that I don't know what's...
every game feels like.
to say that I don't know what's going on is a nonsense. Like, yes, he could be more active on the touchline maybe. But, like, ultimately, as long as we win the fucking games, who cares?
When's the last time Jose
won
I
still understand the criticism because we are not winning games. You...
This is what I mean. Like everyone picks up on things like when you're not winning. Like as soon as you're winning, no one cares about those things.
No, it's very true. Very, very true. Clutch, I'll let you speak on this, on whatever you wanted to say in a second. Let me just read out this super chat. If you watch Moneyball, we're at losing streak part in the film. Okay. I didn't watch Moneyball, so don't fully get your reference, but he says that won't happen. That's what happens when you build with data. When we click, it's over. We need time. Hopefully not too much time because, boy, if we don't win tomorrow, I generally don't know how Potter can survive it just because it will get so toxic that it will not be beneficial to the club at some point to keep him,
I still think he's got the next three regardless. Like even if we lose tomorrow, totally unacceptable and things will get worse.
I think it depends on how we lose. Say it does. Smacked 3-0.
Oh, yeah, of course. But what I mean is that I still
But if we lose getting really unlucky or fucked over by VAR again, it's a bit different.
But people won't see that, though. That's the point.
Well, some will, though, right? So it will be a different level of toxicity.
Yeah, of course. But what I mean is that I do think that he probably has got the next three. And ideally, they'd want to give him until after the Dortmund game. But if we were to not beat Spurs and we were to not beat Leeds and then we go out to Dortmund... how does anyone back that? How can you continue to back that if we don't win the next three? Like, you can't.
No, you can't. Absolutely. Clutch, did you want to say something still before we move on to talking about
I don't remember. I got to be real. I have no clue. I can't remember anything from like 5 minutes ago.
It's all good. It's all good. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate the donation and the input. CFC Pez Lord too. But yeah,
who's the first Pez Lord? Who's Pez Lord 1? Who's the original Pez Lord of this geezer's Pez Lord?
Is it PES? Is it PES? You think it's PES, the game?
Yeah, Pez Lord, Pro Evolution Soccer Lords.
We call it Pez over here.
Yeah.
We call it PES. Much like somebody calls Pius PYS, and that annoys the hell out of me.
Poor Pius, man. He's catching sprays again. My God. Oh, we love you, Pius. You will never see this probably, but we love you. Let me get up the lineup screen, because there's a few positions where we need to talk about a few certain things, because we have a few players available for the first time in God knows how long. And because it's been a week since the last game, I would expect most of them to also be able to start, not just be somewhere. Do you know what I mean? So, first question, I'll start with Charlie because I already know Clutch's answer. Would you stick to the formation or would you consider switching to a three-back for Conte?
I play a back, not even just because it's Conte. I just think I'd actually play a back three purely based on the fact that looking at the good performances we've had this season under Potter, which aren't many, most of them have come playing a 3. Milan, Wolves at home, probably our best performance of the season, or one of, certainly under Potter, and Salzburg away, particularly that first half. And that's probably some of the best football we've played. And I'd personally go back with a 3 just to. I don't know. I just think it might be better for us. I know defensively we don't need that extra person necessarily, but I don't know. Getting Reece and Chile involved in the game a bit more than they would be in a 4. I don't know. I just think it maybe could be more beneficial, but it's not going to happen.
I see where you're coming from. In a sense, I understand why.
I'm not like desperate for it, but
yeah,
I'm not against it. I think it could be maybe worth doing.
I see it. The one thing I'll say is, what we've gone through in the last few weeks and months, which part of it is obviously the whole process thing. If we now isn't going to a back 3 even for a one-off, kind of altering that process where you're like, why did we go through it? Because if that's what we could have done, then why didn't we just? And I said that a few weeks ago when there was, and also people talking about back 3, and I was like, but then the last few weeks and months weren't worth it because our players are still more comfortable in a back 3. Maybe less and less so now, especially because we've changed a lot of the players recently. But until not long ago, our players were certainly more comfortable in a back 3. So in terms of just letting the players do their thing and that way winning games, the back 3 was a better option for the whole time. But in terms of if we want to get somewhere where things become different, I'm not sure if going back to the back 3 is useful. Clutch, before I let you give your thoughts on this, I have a feeling that Chelsea 1905 is someone we know. I don't know who, but someone we know. Who is talking about group chat? But I didn't see everything in the chat.
Because he said we were blaming the thing. Or no, he said, why don't you have a big accounts on here and say it to their face? And I said, there's big accounts that we talk to the group chat. We have conversations in the group chat. You don't know what they are, and we're not going to sit here and air them out. So don't pretend like you know what's going on behind the scenes when you have zero clue what's happening.
Yep. No, I do agree. Fair enough. Clash though, lineup-wise, formation-wise, what do you think?
Yeah. So part of me actually was going to agree with the back 3. Part of me. And then I remembered, well, the only reason our attack has been pretty much working is because of Joao Felix. And Joao Felix operates best in the 10 position, not anywhere like on the wide areas. So I immediately reverted what I was thinking. I'm going to stick to a back 4.
Yeah. I would also stick to the back 4 also because I'm like, in the situation that we're in, should we really try to play Conte at Conte's game? I think that is a dangerous game. Yeah, he's not there, but he's still going to set up the team.
Yeah.
He's in Italy, by the way.
Does he do training and only not go to games? Or isn't he at training?
No, he's in Italy.
He's in there. He's doing nothing.
Okay. But when Emma Hayes recently was out for a while, she was still leading training from the fucking iPad.
So, well, he might be doing that, to be fair, but he's not there in person. Yeah,
I heard he was in Italy.
No, he's come back to England. I'm pretty sure since, but not.
Last I heard, he was staying in Italy for a while, and I was like, what the hell?
No, well, that's what I heard. Like initially after the surgery, but then at some point they said he was flying to England. But then after flying to England, he was like, yeah, but I still can't go to games because I'm screwed. So, yeah. Unfortunately, Supreme, I guess we can talk about team news quickly before we fill out the team. Is Kante fit? No. Unfortunately not. He's not in full training yet, but should return to full training next week. I still doubt
Kante's probably available
for Leeds.
I reckon Dortmund bench. Yeah.
No, exactly that. Okay, unfortunately, Charlie has been outvoted.
Nice. I'm cool with that.
I know. So we're going to stick with the back 4. Obviously, maybe Potter does the back 3 tomorrow anyway, but we're going to pick it in this formation now. Again, because Mendy has been swallowed up by planet Earth and no one knows where he's at or what he's doing. Obviously, we have Kepa in goal. So that's pretty straightforward. Let's do the centre backs. Now, you would think they're very straightforward.
Yeah, picks itself.
Because of who our best 2 centre backs have been. But I guess did Fofana in that second half against Southampton do enough to force himself into your thinking for the starting 11? The one negative to him is obviously that his better position is on the right side of a back four. And that's obviously Thiago Silva's spot. So I guess you could put Thiago Silva back to the left and play Fofana on the right. But or put Fofana on the left, I'm sure. But I feel like we should just stick with Badiashile and Thiago Silva.
Yeah, into the thinking. Yeah, of course. It was a really positive second half from him, but he's not done anything yet to warrant either of those guys. You're not going to drop Thiago Silva, and Badiashile's done nothing to warrant being dropped. So it might seem harsh, but there's no space for Fofana. The only way there's space for Fofana is if we do a 3. That's how he's going to play. He's not, for me, he can't get back in the team until one of these guys either gets injured or has a poor run of form. And right now, that's not happening.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to pick those two. Clash, would you agree as well, those two? Or is somehow Fofana making it into your team?
I would not pick Fofana yet. I mean, he still is just barely coming back. That's the first time he played the other night. So
yeah,
first time since October.
Yeah, so I still think he needs a little bit of time. Keep giving him, I don't know, at the 60th minute. Maybe if we're doing well, take Thiago Silva off, get him.
But only if we're doing really well. In a normal game, I'm not a fan of changing centre backs unless you have to.
You just give him time whenever you can. Don't force it if you can. And also, I think the fullbacks pick themselves too, to be honest. But
the fullbacks do kind of pick themselves. For me, Matt said, Badiashile was a bit shaky against Tottenham. That is true. Although my ever the optimist perspective on this is, well, he's got his mistakes out the way. No more mistakes against Spurs now.
And he'll have Silva back alongside him as well. The back line looked shaky because there was no Silva there to hold it together.
Absolutely. And get KK ready for Dortmund. Maybe we won't need KK for Dortmund because now we have
Big Wes in.
Like Koulibaly was, other than the first 10 minutes, great in Dortmund. So I have in general no problem with playing him. Yeah, no, well, yeah. But in general, I have no problem with playing Koulibaly against him. But Fofana's back, I might just back that, especially just like I wouldn't even be shocked if we sold Koulibaly again in the summer. So at that point, might as well use the others. But all right, we have a centre-backs cleared up. I think we can all agree that Reece James starts at right back. Is anyone going to make a shout for anyone other than Ben Chilwell at left back, though? We'll start with you, Clutch.
No, Ben Chilwell.
Okay, Chile. Yeah, Chile, simple.
It has to be, doesn't it? It's a weird one because I saw someone and it was so entertaining to me. I said, well, to be honest, I don't know his general opinions, but I saw someone talk about how Arsenal build in a 2-3 or a 3-2, and that's how they manage to beat every press so comfortably. And I found that so amusing because that's literally what we do. That is literally what we do. And that's why when Chilwell doesn't play, but it's Cucurella, we literally either do that one or that one. And that is the 2-3 or 3-2 he's literally talking about. That's quite literally why we signed Marc Cucurella, because that's where his strength is. We've clearly realized his strength isn't bombing down the wing, hitting in crosses and being there to score us goals that like we've been used to from Alonso and Ben Chilwell. That's not the type of fullback Cucurella is going to be. Cucurella is the type of fullback that you use in build-up, which hasn't really worked for us yet because our 2-3, we haven't really managed to play around the press, but we still do it. And that's why I saw yesterday we were talking at length about our style of play and do we not have one on the Potter and stuff. And I was like, this is what I mean. When Arsenal do this, it's called a style of play. When we do it, people don't even see it just because it doesn't work. But that's the thing. Something not working doesn't mean it's not there. It just means it's not working. Those are two different, conclusions about the topic, I suppose. But yeah, no, I do have to agree. Ben Chilwell and Reece James, I think, are the only sensible ones to pick. Let's get to midfield then. Again, like it has been for a few weeks now, Enzo Fernandez is the first name on that team sheet. And maybe I should get this quote quickly up on screen. But Enzo Fernandez was also one of those people giving an interview. It did feel a little bit like we were just like, okay, things are really bad. Let's make sure we get out all the interviews with all the big people to make sure we get a bit of better PR. But whether Enzo was told what to say or not, I don't know, obviously. But what I do know is that compared to other interviews I've seen, that was a very well chosen words to say in an interview. How he says, trust the players, trust the backroom staff, trust the manager, never forget we are representing you. That we're trying to win games starting on Sunday, and then we can start to turn things around. Very good comment in my eyes. But the question is, and I'll start with you this time, Charlie. who do you play him next to? Because we tried Cover last time.
Cover was dog shit last time. He was poor.
Is that a case of Cover being rusty and now he should be better because he did get that game now?
Maybe.
Or would you put a Zakaria in there? Would you put Ruben back in where it worked at least reasonably well for a couple of games?
To be honest, mate, I don't think Zakaria is going to. I'd like to see Zakaria in there, but I don't think he's. I can't see it happening purely based on the fact that he's played 0 minutes since Fulham. He hasn't even had any bench minutes.
I don't understand why he didn't come on.
I didn't understand that.
Southampton. That's so weird.
I didn't understand why he didn't come on against Southampton. For me, mate, I thought Cover was poor in that last game. Yeah, his first start, etc., first 90 for a little bit of time. Mate, I'd probably go Ruben, in there, just because he's got kind of the most.
Let's assume Zakaria is fit. Would you then start him over Ruben?
Oh, yeah, if he was fit, I'd start him, yeah.
Okay. Because I feel like, I know he didn't play any competitive minutes yet, but neither did Fofana until he played that second half and he looked fine. Do you know what I mean? And frankly, Zakaria didn't even make his Premier League debut until that game against Bournemouth, didn't he? So,
I thought he was never going to play for Chelsea.
Play all season. I feel like to him, not having played doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
So, if you would pick, obviously, I'm a fan of Ruben, you know that. But if you want to pick Ruben, absolutely fair. But hoping that he is fit, would you pick Zakaria? Yeah.
Yeah, if he's fit to play, yeah. But I mean, to be honest, I'd pick him. Yeah. Otherwise, I'd go Ruben.
I mean, Clutch, is that how you see it? If Zakaria is fit, start Zakaria. Otherwise, maybe Ruben, or what would you do?
I'm picking Gallagher,
No, you're not.
No, I'd have it exact same as Charlie, to be honest. If Zakaria is fit, then yeah, you pick him. Because I think he gets the best out of Enzo, of the current team. Enzo's going to have to sit back with the other two. So
I think he will have to sit back with Zakaria all the same, if I'm honest. But Zakaria will cover him more in terms of just tackling and.
I'm gonna be honest, he's gonna have to do it with Kante too. Let's be honest.
Exactly. So that's why you might as well. This is the frustrating and disappointing thing to me. We're going to pair him with Kante, meaning we're going to make Enzo into a deep lying midfielder, which is just wasting half of his talent, I think. But hey, we'll have to do what we have to do. But yeah, if Zakaria is fit, I'll start him. If he isn't, it's Ruben. I wouldn't do the cover thing again, not against Spurs. Sorry, the cover thing again, yeah. And other options aren't really there. Chukwuemeka in the 6, Gallagher in the 6. And I guess you could argue midfield 3, but I mean, we all want Joao Felix to play as the 10. So, it is what it is. Let's move up then. I mean, here we're all pretty confident that it is going to be Joao Felix. One thing I do want to quickly say, because it's going to be, well, I guess Chilwell potentially starts, but other than Reece James and Kepa, who's been here for long enough, it's going to be a lot of, I guess, Thiago Silva, but he just doesn't seem like the aggressive type. I really hope that the players that have been here for a while, especially the English ones, drill it into these new players that this is a big game for us and not just any game that we would like to win. Like, they really need to absolutely hammer it into their ears, like shout at them as they fall asleep on the team coach that we need to beat Spurs, because I really need Felix, Mudryk, all these guys to very much be aware that we need to win this game. But I assume we're all in agreement on Joao Felix as the number 10. Yep. We're probably all. Well, this is probably a pretty straightforward one. Is this the three behind the striker you'd pick, Clutch? No. Okay, who would you pick?
I'd pick Sterling on the left. I'd pick Nani on the right.
Mudryk
has not been good. I don't want Mudryk anywhere near a starting lineup right now. He's more negative than he has been positive. And until I see him get a better first touch, he's going to be somebody who I'm going to be watching very, very closely. Other than the Liverpool cameo, he's been very bad. Very, very bad.
I think very bad is a bit of an exaggeration. I think against West Ham, when he got the ball, he was good.
We don't get in the ball enough. Yeah, he's not been great, but we don't get in the ball anywhere near enough.
When he does get on the ball, his touch is terrible. He dribbles into players he's nowhere near the same level I thought he was.
I'd be more tempted to start Madueke. I mean, Sterling was okay when he came on against Southampton second half, but
would you pick Madueke over Sterling rather than over Mudryk?
Yeah, probably.
Oh my God, there's 3 different lineups here.
Yeah, for me, as much as I agree with what Clutch said, if Madueke cost anywhere near as much as Mudryk, you would say this about Madueke, because I have not been impressed by Madueke other than that he's quite strong.
I think he's been okay. He's just
The only reason
he's been okay, absolutely. But has he done anything where I'm like, well, that's going to change the game?
Well, the only reason I would pick Madueke is who else am I going to put over there? I don't think Ziyech is ready to
if you
start.
don't want to start,
No. And I want Sterling on the right or left right now because he was the player who did the most the other day. Deserves a start, quite frankly.
He did the most off the right after he had shifted over.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, you've basically got two options. You either start Sterling on the left with Madueke on the right, or you have Mudryk on the left and it's one of Sterling or Madueke. That's basically the...
If you're asking me to guess tomorrow's lineup, I bet you it's this one.
Yeah.
Oh, this will be it tomorrow, yeah. I would have thought. I don't think Madueke starts this game in the actual team, but I probably would pick him. But yeah, that's not going to happen.
Well, I guess even if it was on the side-wise, it's going to be a little bit confusing in that sense. I guess I'm going to just... Well, not as a sub directly. I should put slash. Madueke, I'm just going to put both of them there. Because if we can't decide, then we can't decide. Fair enough. A big call from you, Clutch, there, because he obviously didn't start the last game. And we had another week for him to get fitter, for him to get more introduced to the whole team and how everything works. I will give it another try just because I think what we need... good shout, Isaac. Fair play to you. Let's do a poll. But
here's my question. I actually wanted to ask this question earlier, right? So, out of our squad, who do you most trust to put the ball in the net? The finishers. I think there's only 4 in my opinion.
Felix,
4 or 5.
Even though he's missed loads of chances, I probably still trust him more than most. James.
Everybody.
Reece James, I'd probably trust him to finish.
I forgot about Reece James, yeah.
I'd trust Reece James to finish something. I'd trust Felix to finish something. Maybe Enzo. That's about it. I don't really have much confidence in anyone else.
I don't think Mudryk's the type of player who's going to be a goal scorer. I really don't. I think he's going to be more of he's going to be creative. Madueke also gives me that vibe. Sterling is a finisher. Pulisic is a finisher. Felix is a technical finisher. Havertz is not a finisher. Aubameyang is a finisher, but we're not talking about him anymore.
Havertz is more of a finisher than Joao Felix is. I'm just telling you that right now.
There's a pretty low
Havertz
bar.
has scored more goals for Chelsea than Joao Felix has in any season ever. And we say...
To be fair,
awful, right?
To be fair, Atletico Madrid is not a team that scores goals.
Sure, but he also didn't score that many at Benfica. He was very good, but not the goal output wasn't the crazy part.
No, he's never scored more than he hasn't scored more than 10 league goals in a season in his career.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean he's not prolific goal scorer, but I would still trust him to put the ball in the net more than other people.
Yeah, it's a tricky one for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I did put a poll at the top of the chat. Sorry, I'll be back on camera in just a second. I put a poll at the very top of the chat. Pick from, the options. I gave you the options of Mudryk, Felix, Sterling, Mudryk, Felix, Madueke, and Sterling, Felix, Madueke. I didn't even put Mason Mount in there. Sorry if there's any Mason Mount fanboys. I don't think he quite warrants a start because he was awful recently. And then he played last game. Sure, it was on the wing, so that didn't help him. But he was still flipping awful. Yeah, so,
I have to ask a question for the chat that thinks that Mudryk's a goal scorer. How many goals did he score before coming to Chelsea?
I think this season he scored.
He's got a few in the Champions League.
I think he's got 6. I think he has 6 in the league and then 2 in the 2. But before that, he didn't score.
Wasn't it Champions League? I think he had 6 goal contributions in the 6 games in the group stage.
I'm talking about goals. I'm not talking about contributions.
Oh. I don't know. Maybe
somebody told me he's a better finisher, and I'm like, no, he's not. I'm sorry.
I think he is a good finisher still, just from the way he hits the ball. But we need to actually get him in those positions as well, obviously, because otherwise you're never going to see it. For me, he does. In the league, he scored 7 goals with 6 assists in 12 games, and in the Champions League, he scored 3 goals with 2 assists in 6 games. So he still scored 10 goals this season. Tell me how many players in the Chelsea squad have scored 10 goals. Just ask you that question. Because none of them have. But, that is its own separate issue. But fair enough, ladies and gentlemen, we will give you a little bit more time to pick your choice of 3 behind the striker. And we will talk about the striker. Charlie, I'll start with you. You were at the Southampton game. Did David Dutcher Fofana do enough for you to start another game?
Mate, I thought he was good. I was surprised he was taken off. Look, of course, like there are a few loose
Especially he
touches
was
here
taken
and
off
there.
and we put Mount up top. Like, that was
I mean, he
the stupidest thing I've
was.
ever seen.
Look, he's raw still. A few loose touches, but I actually thought he was good. I think he held the ball up well. I thought there was some good link-up play. I thought he used his body well. I thought there were some positive things there. Like the guy's still raw, of course he is, and he's not a finished article. And he's not amazing by any accounts, but I actually think he did quite well. And we know that Kai Havertz is going to play. We're not stupid. We know Havertz is playing tomorrow, but I probably would. I personally would continue with Fofana. Did
you, from your perspective at the Southampton game, because I was actually, to me, like people say I was with Sterling, but to me, not Joao Felix, Chelsea, we actually only improved not when Sterling came on, but when Havertz came on. I mean, Havertz set up.
Havertz was good from the bench. He was good. Havertz was good from the bench, and that's where he should stay really for the time being. Because when he starts, he seems to not really offer anything. But from the bench, particularly in that Southampton game, he did make a difference when he came on. I probably would go for Fofana, but we all know it's going to be Havertz.
Yeah, we all.
But
know.
the thing was there wasn't much.
Charlie might have only read the Atletico stats, but yes, to be fair, at Benfica, Joao Felix did score 15 goals with 9 assists in 26 games, but that's still less than Kai Havertz in his best season. Not at Chelsea, I think. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Look, obviously, the Felix and Fofana, that's probably the first time they've played together. That didn't look. The link up didn't look great, the chemistry, as you would expect. But I don't know. I think for me, I'd stick with Fofana, but we know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, fair enough. Clutch, would you stick with Fofana as well, or would you start Havertz?
Or Aubameyang?
Or Aubameyang.
Would I start Aubameyang? That's a good question. No. I think since this is a must-win game, and like Charlie just said, have to get it right from the beginning. We cannot have a Fofana and Joao Felix having chemistry problems like that again. I would start Havertz. They just have better chemistry. And hopefully putting whoever your wingers are, hopefully you get them to actually finish some chances.
Yep. I'm probably in agreement, and I'm actually also in agreement with what Naku said. Datra added electricity, blah, blah, blah. Not about Mount, just about Datra. I absolutely agree with that. And I think what we can't do again is leave Fofana as an unused sub. We need to bring him on because the way he runs, he's not maybe like a Mudryk style super fast or a Sterling style very fast, but he has a bit of I don't know, Carlos Tevez in him. I feel like in terms of that he is a real striker, but he's not very tall, but he's still fast, but he's a bit bulky. So like, it's a good combination of attributes, I think, other than, that you're not going to be great in the air at 5'11". But I want him to be used in that sense. And ice cold beverage. The problem is Potter said that in almost every press conference recently, and Aubameyang never made the squad. So I wouldn't get your hopes up too high, but we'll
I think people need to understand that Aubameyang's done here. The fact that he didn't leave because he wanted to fight for a place, that's fantastic. I'm glad you have that.
He should be on the bench, though, in my opinion, just in case we need him for like 10, 15 minutes or something. He should be on the bench. He shouldn't not be making the squad is what I'm saying.
Eventually he will not, because when you get all people back in fit, I mean, how many people are we allowed to have on the bench? 7?
You basically
you get 9. I think you get 9 subs
you need some strike
now, don't you?
Yeah. I think you get 9 in the Champions League. I think you only get 7 in the Premier League.
So there's only 2 subs that are unused.
And it's generally the goal. Hold on, let me look.
I think you get 9.
7 in the Prem before we went to 5 subs. So now
it's 9 I think it's 9. Yeah,
and I think it's 12 in the Champions League.
It's a 9-man bench. Anyway, regardless, like he shouldn't be starting, but he should be on the bench for an option if we need it.
It is 9.
Yeah. But he's not starting tomorrow. That's for sure.
No. But in terms of what Clutch said, you don't have space on the bench for him. Well, you always have space for one striker. Then you just need to pick between Fofana and Aubameyang. And obviously, we learned that apparently Kyle McCauley State's analysis suggests that Fofana is better in every
the key things, whatever. Yeah,
Aubameyang is. But is he better in the metric of you need a goal late on, bring someone in who's experienced scoring goals? I mean, as much as we criticize Aubameyang, and that includes me, and ridicule him to some extent a little bit, the guy has scored the fifth most amount of goals between 2010 and 2020 of any player. It was topped by Messi, Ronaldo, and then Ibrahimovic or something, or Suarez. And fifth was literally Aubameyang. That is very impressive, to be fair to him. You don't just take that away. As much as he's got slower, he will still know how to score a goal. That's why I agree. He should at least be on the bench. But I still don't think he should be starting games because I don't think we get much from that. But yeah, here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, the last thing we need today. Oh, did Bertram send me a quiz today? Because he's had all the flipping internet issues. He was supposed to be on today, but then couldn't be. I'm not sure if he ever sent me a quiz. Don't think he did. So I don't need to feel bad for not doing a quiz. So the last thing we need to do before we round this one out, score prediction. Charlie, I'll start with you. What's your score prediction for tomorrow?
I don't know. It's a sign of the times where, again, that we always win, don't feel confident at all. But I've not felt confident in any games this season, really. I haven't really expected anything from any of them. Tomorrow's the same, unfortunately. I don't expect anything. But what I do expect is us for fucking to turn up. I think we've got really big problems, and bigger than we already have, if we can't turn up for this game. If you can't turn up for a London derby, we're fucked more than we already are. So,
and not just any London derby against Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't got many goals in the team. Unless that magically clicks into place, this is going to be decided by one goal, in my opinion. So, I'm going to say 1-0 win to try and get some positive vibes going. But ultimately, I think it's really going to be 1-1 or something like that.
Yeah, fair enough. Clutch, what about you? What's your score prediction?
Tottenham are in good form. 2-0 Chelsea. How about that?
2-0 Chelsea. Yeah. That's the weird thing because Spurs are not in bad form. Well, it's not been brilliant.
It's mixed.
Before that, they lost to Milan. Before that, they lost 4-1 to Leicester. But before that, they beat Man City.
They always beat City at Spurs.
Yeah, somehow they do. I saw a graph today.
City have never scored there.
Never.
In the league.
Actually, never.
They haven't scored there in the league in the Tottenham Stadium.
That's an insane stat, that is. That's crazy. Considering how many goals City usually score. I saw a graph that since January 22, how our press has been the least press in the whole league, which is insane. By the way.
Doesn't surprise me.
No, it doesn't surprise me either. But, press is obviously a little bit relative because you can have such a thing as a mid-block press, which I was harping on about yesterday. But I think against Spurs, actually, a mid-block press is what you should do because Spurs are literally set up to play against the press because you press them, you push up, and then one of their midfielders or centre-backs will punt a long ball to Heung-min Son or to Harry Kane, and one of them will lay it off to the other.
Don't leave one man back from corners.
Yeah. Exactly. And I guarantee that we will, but
just don't do that.
No. My score prediction is going to be, I can't decide between 1-0 Chelsea or 2-1 Chelsea. Because on the one hand, I'm we're not scoring more than one goal. So I have to say 1-0. But on the other hand, I'm are we really keeping a clean sheet against Son and Kane? Maybe not. But I still want to predict the win because I have a feeling we're going to win. I don't know. Everything that happened this week in terms of whether it's the death threats, whether it's all the toxicity and negativity, I just feel like we're going to, the team and staff are all going to use that as a positive to really, not a permanent click. I wouldn't be surprised if we then lose to Leeds. But for at least this one, I feel like it might work. Okay, so I'm going to say 2-1. I'm going to back us. Okay, yeah, we're going
to score 2 goals, which is this. We've only scored 2 goals all month. We scored 1 goal this month, so we're going to score 2 in one game. Well, let's hope.
They're pretty impressive.
I love our February goal of the month, by the way. Great goal.
Just Felix. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah, so far.
I love that.
But thankfully, we still play tomorrow. And it's, by the way, when was the last time we scored more than 2 goals? I'm pretty sure it was when we played Wolves at home.
Yeah, 3-0. Or Milan away, if you count that. Oh, no, we didn't. We played Milan
home.
2
in that as well.
We scored 2 in that one, yeah, but 3.
We scored 3 against them at home, but that was
we haven't scored. We haven't scored 3 since October, I think, in a game probably.
Insane stuff, absolutely insane stuff, and we haven't scored 2 since playing Bournemouth.
Yeah, December 27th.
December 27th.
Yeah, it's poor.
So, that's the problem. I mean, Real Madrid scored more goals in 63 or 67 minutes than we have.
Mate, West Ham today, when they won, West Ham won 4-0 today. They matched our goals for the year in one game.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that for us. It's a great day.
It's a great day.
Isn't it fun? Isn't it fun? Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to round this one. I appreciate all of you that have tuned in today. I know there was other people streaming at the same time on Saturdays. Don't do so well. So those of you that have turned up, I appreciate you all very much. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button on your way out. It's always massively appreciated. We will be back tomorrow. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea, upwards and onwards. Oh, of course, please do subscribe to Charlie. Link is down in the description. The Blues Brothers, helping to get to 3K. We're getting ever closer. And of course, check out
crawling along.
Sorry?
We're crawling along.
Exactly. Help him crawl a bit quicker,
Yeah.
Tap him on the arm. Make it happen quicker. And follow Clutch so he can call himself an influencer on Twitter.
No, don't do. I don't want that job title anymore.
Sorry, say again?
I don't want that job title.
Okay, well, now you're getting it. Follow him so he needs to be an influencer. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea, upwards and onwards. And we'll see you next time.